It's Eric Skeeter again from Skeeter Advisors. This is the Multifamily Multitasking Mindset podcast. We're going to be talking today with Ryan McDaniel, Area Manager and Site Support with Trinity Property Consultants. Hey, Ryan.
Hi, Eric. Thank you so much for having me here today.
Oh, I'm so glad you're on today. We're going to be talking about customer service. Customer service is the lifeblood of everything to our assets, right? But this is going to be kind of a student housing edition of customer service. I'm really excited about that. Don't have a whole lot of experience myself in it, so I can't wait to hear about that. So, Ryan, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Fantastic. Thank you. You said you don't have a lot of experience in student housing, but student housing is my bread and butter. I started out in the industry as many people. I was looking for kind of just a work option, a career option, and started out as a leasing consultant. Loved it. Was quickly advanced into a leasing manager. Adored that role. If you ever want to know the best role in the company, I always blame it on leasing managers. But beautiful role of leasing manager, then quickly escalated to a property manager. And then from being a property manager, I did floating in multifamily for just a little while, but my heart was a student. So I returned pretty quickly back to being student as an area manager and site support for our properties. My company has expanded and feel like it has blown up overnight. So I represent 22 sites. So it's very, very exciting. I have just under 4 years in the industry, but I can truly say it is such a passion for me. I feel like I am home there from a person with a psychology background. Maybe not your most obvious choice, but is something I very much enjoy. So I thank you for having me.
Absolutely, yeah. It's something I actually wrote a piece not long ago about. How many of us really start our career thinking about being a property manager or in this business. So you're one of many, including myself. We just kind of fell into it, and you can never get
Absolutely.
out.
100%. It's so interesting. It's so
It
interesting.
is. It is. All right. Well. So just customer service in general. Just talk about that just for a few minutes, and just talk about the importance of it. And we've got a internal customer service, external. Um, you know, we service our coworkers, our supervisors, our owners, and asset managers. So customer service kind of is a huge ball of wax, and
It
tell
is.
me about what's your overall feeling about what customer service means to you guys.
Absolutely. So in our industry, I always tell people that it's just walls. It's just a set of walls that you're moving into. What makes the experience special, unique, so memorable is the customer service element. We at the site level are passionate and we are given the opportunity to service, as you said, so many people. Our asset managers, our vendors for student housing, it's our residents, our guarantors, our parents, siblings. And we also, which is very fun about student housing, is we're kind of the starting point to liaisoning people into their first apartment experiences. So they leave student housing with a really good understanding of what it's like to live in the apartment world. And a lot of times they go on to live into other apartments. So it's really beautiful. Customer service really means to me where you are just choosing to put people first, being very front facing with people. And I know that's such a simple explanation, but it really is it at its core. It's about value. It's about kindness and generosity. It's about really showing up every day, putting aside one's own preferences and really showing up for others. It's something that I don't think can always just be taught naturally, but just being in an environment of customer service, being around people who are empathetic and caring and generous really translates, and you will just become that way with time. So, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Isn't that so true? And people try to teach, like you said, you don't necessarily come equipped with good customer service skills, but you have to have a good heart. You have to really care, right? You can't fake this.
Yeah.
People are too smart to they can see right through if you're just kind of going through the motions, right? You really have to
Absolutely.
care and want to follow through with these folks and please them. Um, you know, totally think that.
No, you're
Well,
so
great.
right. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
Well, good. So, you and I were talking offline a while back. We were talking about a personal story that you had, and it had to do with student housing before you got into student housing, right?
Yeah.
So, and it was a great story about customer service and what that, it just shows it shows what it can do for somebody. So, would you mind sharing that?
I would love to. So many moons ago, I was a young 17-year-old getting ready to go into a college apartment. Very excited, very enthusiastic. It was kind of my first taste away from my parents. I was really energetic and really ready to go. I remember my dad and I packed up my mother's van with every single thing you can think of, decor items, everything that was beautiful. And we just drove to my apartment complex, and we got the keys, there were banners and there was balloons, and it was just a really pleasant, energized experience
Yeah.
until I walked into my apartment.
Oh,
And I walked into my apartment and I took about 10 to 20 steps in there, and the floor was soaking wet.
oh,
And at first, I was trying to be optimistic and I was like, oh, maybe the carpet had been freshly cleaned. But very quickly, I could tell that it had been an active water leak. And to be young and by yourself, and you've come a long way, and you've packed up your entire car with all of your belongings, to move in somewhere where I didn't have friends to stay, I didn't have anywhere else to go. School was about to start. It was really disheartening. And I've never been a person who's like rallying, like rah rah with people in the office. But I remember going down there with my dad, hands on my hips, just ready to just release it all, being like, why would you do this? Why is this happening? And the lady at the front office, she stopped and she said, well, let me go with you. Let's see what's going on. And so immediately she stopped what she was doing. She walked with me. We walked across this property was relatively large. So we walked in the heat, 100 degrees in Tennessee. We walked and we went to my unit, up the stairs, third floor. So we walked up the stairs and we looked at my unit, and she said, okay, I know what this is.
yeah.
She got out her cell phone within a couple of minutes. Facilities came over, addressed all of the concerns. They got shot backs, drying things out. She worked with me the entire way. And within about an hour to an hour and a half, things were relatively cleaned up.
Mhm.
It didn't stop there. The next day, which was a Saturday,
Yeah.
she came into the office to check on me, to check to make sure everything was cleaned up, that it was smelling fresh, because we know the after effects with water can be a little, but make sure it was smelling fresh and it was nice. And then on Sunday, she texted and called me to check in on me. And on Monday, she checked in and called on me. And when I started school Monday morning, not only did I have a beautiful apartment that I was able to get moved into, decorated, and everything I wanted it to be,
Right.
I felt like my community understood me. And even though I went away, my parents were gone, I was by myself now, I knew I wasn't by myself. And that
Mhm.
measure and that impact of customer service really just changed the game for me. And it really gave me my first real view as an adult, my first real view of what it is like to be more than just a place, more than just a space, the impact that one person's generosity can have. And that's all due to her amazing customer service. She and I, fun fact, is 10 years later, are still friends today. We have a great
Oh.
relationship. And she is just one of those people who is just light. And even though she has moved on, and we are not in the same location, we still keep up very regularly and are friends now in the industry. So I say she had a little bit of hand of getting me to be impassioned and be in this industry in the first place.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. That's like textbook, right? That's like
Hmm.
textbook the way we all should be handling those kinds of
Absolutely.
situations, right?
Absolutely.
That's awesome. I mean, and it's and again, she sounded like the kind of person that, it came naturally to her
Hmm.
to be that kind of person. But it doesn't, you don't have to. That's just something that, when it happens, you just put yourself in the other person's shoes. It's empathy, right?
Yeah.
You feel it. I was just talking to somebody the other day about Stephen Covey's Seven Habits of Highly Effective People, and number five is about empathy and seeking to understand so that they can be understood. and that's what she was doing. She understood, and even though it was just the right thing to do, and she just did everything. But I mean, just the fact that she did the follow up too, because she knew that you were brand new, and she probably saved a student from going back home potentially,
Yep,
and and became a raving fan, and probably told a lot of people about that great story like you're doing today.
absolutely. She is a rock star, as we would say. But
Oh,
I appreciate her, and I'm very, very grateful for her time, grateful for her energy and her empathy, as you put it. It could not be matched, and it's one of those things that I will always cherish.
that's terrific. That's great. So on the flip side, what do you think sometimes prevents our teams from giving this same kind of service? And we're talking about on-site teams, just like you were going through. What do you think prevents them?
I give my site teams a lot of grace because this industry is challenging. There's a monotony to it. There's a every day there's a vendor who needs keys and a parent who's unhappy about this that may be out of your control. Someone's coming in and it's package and maybe the package is in a different location or maybe it hasn't arrived yet, and you're having to constantly give this news and these conversations, and it's metrics, this top down approach. It's metrics, reports, numbers, and you can just feel, you can internalize that weight, and then you don't lead first with customer service and empathy. You lead first with the goals and the initiatives of others. Your personality doesn't present. Your kindness doesn't always get to present. And I understand so much for our site teams how weighted down they can be by these interactions. It's such a challenge to really remember to who you're talking to. And I always tell my teams, one of my favorite things to say to them is, this is their home, this is our job, because it really allows you to put in perspective that these are just people. Your home is the most personal touch you can get to your real life. It is everything you are. It is your culture. It's your environment. It's the things you believe. It's your hopes and dreams. It's your family. And it's so easy to lose sight of that with the day to day and how challenging our industry can be.
Yeah, so true, so true. And I love how you opened it up by saying that you give your team grace. That I mean they really, we're all, more difficult, we're harder on ourselves than others are already. And then to be pressured with everything else coming at them, that certainly distracts them from being able to do the what's natural, which is, providing, empathy to customers and such. I think that's great. I think that's great. And I think that answers kind of the question I was going to ask you. How do you encourage them to overcome those challenges? I mean, by giving them grace, they're smart enough. They know what to do. Give them some leeway, and they'll figure it out.
100%. And then there's just so many things from a leadership perspective you can do. I know everyone says lead by example, but truly do so. I Our president of our company, one of the things that he does that I think is just awe-inspiring is every time he comes to a site, with his bare hands he picks up trash. He always says he's never too good to pick up trash, and I've always thought that that is just the way you should lead, the way our leaders should show up for our teams. But for our site teams, gamification, incentives, excitement, putting really obtainable goals, even just having really in-depth connection. I always find that a lot of times, I know done this in other companies where I've met my higher ups, and it's scary and it's
Yeah.
challenging. It doesn't have to be. It can be transparent. It can be empathetic. It can be connective. And when you have those kind of relationships, that translates. What you give to your team is what they give to their residents, their prospects, the people they interact with. So I think it's on leadership side to really stand up for their teams,
Yeah.
and it's our team's side. Their job is to articulate what they're feeling. That level of
Mhm.
transparency is so important. I love when my teams come to me and say, hey, I'm struggling with this. What can we do? And then it's brainstorming, and then it's collaboration. And then all of a sudden we've created a new initiative that is meeting and surpassing goals more than we ever thought we could, just by putting people first.
So true. Yeah. And and I love what your president does, picking up trash and I think it's so important. One of the other thing one of the main reasons why I wanted to start this podcast was to encourage folks at the regional level, at the site level, to be able to have a voice, to be able to talk about, what they care about most. And so many podcasts today, are about vice presidents and above, talking about them and very important subjects and very important topics. But I think this is terrific information. I really appreciate what you're talking about today because it helps the VPs and above, feel again what they felt every day, day in and day out, when they were at these levels, and it helps them to continue to empathize because they also, become distracted by all that they're responsible for. But to remember, where we all came from and how challenging those roles are, and if we continue to empathize and put ourselves in those shoes, everybody is going to be better for it. I think that's terrific.
Absolutely, absolutely. I challenge for anybody who's watching at a site level to just know that anyone who's in a higher up, anyone who's in a leadership perspective, we work for you. It's not the other way around. It is our job to show up for you daily, and we are here to champion your success. And I don't want that to ever be lost on anyone at a site level. I know I needed to hear that so much when I was sitting at the front desk getting an angry phone call. So I want to make sure that the people who are listening know that that is what is true in our industry and that they are so valued.
That's great. Great stuff. Great stuff. Thanks for that. Okay, so we really haven't even started talking about student housing except for your terrific story. So let's talk a little bit about customer service and student housing, the importance of it, and just maybe talk about how the cycle of student housing goes,
Yeah.
which is rapid pace sometimes. So I'll just hand the mic over to you and let us know.
Yeah. So most of the people who are going to be interacting with your content are going to be very familiar with multifamily and how that works, how that moves. Student housing is a little bit different. It is a cyclical on an annual scale. And so there's a lot of moving parts all at one time. And even though multifamily has the moving parts that are doing a month over month, it has very repeat goals and repeat initiatives versus student is a all or nothing kind of metric. What you do on September 1st, what you collect, what your occupancy is, what your success rate is, how people feel about your product defines your entire year. Um, Month over month, you can have a bad month in multifamily and a good month in multifamily and kind of right size for the year. As far as student, it doesn't always aim that way. We really have like three major times, one big move in August, and then a smaller one in January and May. And so that's really what you're having to aim for. It's so marketing focused and marketing driven. With that, customer service has to be your forefront. In multifamily, I've found that majority of the time you don't have as much competition. People are in a small radius, small area. They kind of know what they're looking for. If they're touring, you pretty much have it in the bag, as they say, that you are going to sign that lease. Student is not like that. You are competing against so many different industries, so many different options. Do they choose this university or a different university? Is it a community college or this university? And then do they want to stay on campus? Because a lot of guarantors' parents want people to stay on campus. Are they going to choose an apartment? Then if they're going to choose an apartment, are they going to choose private living or community living? Are they going to bring their roommate or do we need to find them one? And then there's that kind of unrest about living with someone you don't know. There's are you going to live in a private development? Or are you going to live in a multifamily kind of setup? There's just so many options. Are you going to do online school? and stay at home. There's just so many people that you're competing for, and you have a set number who are of value in your market. Versus in multifamily, you have people who are moving and changing. There's maybe this big growth in your community. The student has kind of a set number. If there are 28,000 students at your university, that's your market and that's what you have. And we all know that fluctuates, different things. There's different rules for university. It's such a challenge. And then with it being on an annual basis, like I said, there's so many moving parts. It is, if for anyone who's ever done a lease up, it is a lease up all year long, and there's no break. You lease until August. You get September to reset and do some really good resident connections to prepare for renewals. You renew in October. So it's August, set up in September, begin again in October. And there's a really cool relationship to it. There's a period where you're really nurturing the people who live there. You want them to renew. You want them to be successful. But student housing as an average only averages about 30% renewals. People are graduating. People are changing to other locations. So you recognize that you may not always have that there. So it's hitting the ground running coming October, November, going for new leases. And then if any of you have heard the scary word student turn, the student turn happens during most of our summers. And that is a different experience. If you've never tried it, highly recommend. It will definitely tell you a lot about yourself. But you have this relationship of you're leasing and you're leasing and you're leasing, and then everyone moves out. 60% of your property is gone. 70% of your property is gone. And you have to rapidly make sure you're giving this great customer service. People think customer service stops when people move out. No. People need refund checks. They need to know what's going on in their unit. They want to have a good kind of exit relationship. We owe that honestly to our residents as they're departing. Then as they're departing, we are running around. Great customer services where our vendors are showing up. This is where any given day you can have 80 different people on a site who are just dedicated to work. And they're everywhere and needing keys, and it's hot and you're tired. At that point, you have to choose your people first. You have to show up as your people first. For my property managers who are listening, leasing assistant managers, this is really where you shine, because you really control the culture of how your turn moves just by your enthusiasm and your empathy. So we've got that going. And then at the same time, my favorite thing is move in. I love move in, but it is the most exciting time. It is new people who a lot of times their parents have never even seen the space. A lot of student housing industries, they don't even show, we show models, we don't show the units. So they don't know where their apartment is. They don't know what they need to bring. They don't know what needs to be handled. They know that there's going to be a bed and a dresser in the room, and that there are two random people who are going to be placed with them. And so customer service is the glue. It bridges all of those connections. It helps us really make that moment memorable, but really make that moment able to be understood in a very digestible way. And it eliminates fear. We don't talk enough about the fear of moving in a new experience. When you're moving in a conventional property, you know more than likely who you're living with. It's very easy. There's not that like element of just, but you're walking, or you've seen your apartment. This is a brand new space that the customer service is the bright lights. It's the art. It's the cushion for when you walk in the room. You see a wall, white walls and floors and some standard hard furniture. But the customer service is the decoration that paints the picture before they ever even hang anything up. So it's so important. It's so important, and it's so fantastic and fun. It's just high stakes. It's high stakes, and everything matters. Everything speaks and everything matters in those situations.
Wow. I'm exhausted. That's unbelievable. I can't even imagine. But exciting. I mean, just, and all those new people and the anxiousness that they have, but you're here to save the day and to make them feel good and feel comfortable and feel as much that this is home as possible. I think that's great.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Awesome. So maybe talk a little bit about your company and how how do they champion customer service? What do they
Ooh.
do to, to encourage you and encourage the teams and so forth?
Absolutely. So I love my company. I
Yeah,
think they are the greatest in the world. That may be biased, but I think they're the greatest in the world because
yeah,
they are so people first. Um, Everything we do has that essence, that taste to it, that it's people first. Our VPs, they go during turn and they clean out units and they move furniture and they show up for our teams so well, but we put initiatives in place. We have quarterly analysis, big meetings with our VPs, with all of our operational support teams. We have so many support roles, and we gather together and we hear what the sites need and what our customers need. We are so consumer focused that everything we roll out as an initiative is in that kind of thought process. And I love that about us. I love that that's what we do. We also really pride ourselves in innovation. So we are always let's try it. Let's hear it. Let's try it. Let's survey. Let's get the feedback we need. And then let's just go for it. There's no political element. There's no layers. There's no walls. It's just, let's show up for our people. And then I love my site teams, man, and I love them across the board, but student housing, they are incredible. We have a group chat that all of our student housing, all 22 of our sites, every team member is in this chat, and we just talk. We just hear what's going on. We just understand our consumer. We talk about how we feel, the values of what we're trying to put forth, and we collaborate. It's incredible. I host 3 calls every month that are just focused on training and collaboration. And we really are able to provide the best customer service because there's no layers, there's no barriers between us and our prospect. We have so much visibility. We have so much support. I love that about us.
nice. Oh, that's great. That I love that you involve everybody on the sites in those kinds of calls because it makes them feel as important as they are, you know, that you care enough to listen to them too. And besides, they have most of the time they have the best
Yeah.
answers and the best feedback that
Hmm.
that that we could ever need. And,
Absolutely.
I've been in those corporate level meetings where we sit around and try to decide what's best on site. Yet we haven't worked on site in probably 5 or 10 years,
Hmm.
and it's I think that's fantastic, and what a way to encourage our teams and to develop them into our future decision makers and our future leaders for the next generation. That's great.
Yeah. I love it.
Good
I love it
stuff.
so much.
All right, cool. So let's see. Let's talk about a little bit about customers, some examples of some things that some other stories that maybe come to mind, recently or recent past that demonstrate what your efforts and your company's efforts are doing out
Ooh, I have 2 that come to mind. One is a shorter story, one's a little bit longer. So, a
there. Okay.
shorter story for you. I had a girl who, when I was a leasing agent, this was back in the day when I was working the front desk,
Yeah.
she had some things that had gone wrong in her apartment. We'd gotten them taken care of. She had a roommate who had a really big dog, and she wasn't such a big fan of the dog. And there's just a lot of like challenges, and we come to renewal, it's season, and we're wrapping up the renewal season. She hasn't renewed, and my best friend was my a co-leasing agent at the time, and she and I were like, I think she'll renew, I think she will, but we weren't sure. And
Mhm.
she came in one day and she sat down and talked to us for like 3 or 4 hours at the desk.
Mhm.
And we were just honest with her. We talked about her life. We talked about school. We talked about what was going on with her classes. We were in the same major, so I gave her some recommendations for who professors she should take. So it was a great interaction. And she left and she said, "I'm going to renew because of you guys, because of the way you showed up for us." She's like, "I know that this is where I want to be because I can recognize that this community puts its people first." And
Right.
that really sat with me, and that really made me understand that just my element of kindness, just my element of interacting with others really was going to make this girl's life. It was going to change her life. And I love that. And she and I are still good friends. So that's fantastic. Made a
Oh,
friend.
that's awesome.
And then on the other side, I love to tell people, for anybody who's a first time property manager, especially in student, I always tell the story of my first property manager turn. Um, it went wrong. It went very wrong.
Oh,
I prepared and I did all my initiatives and I did the work and I had the support, and my vendor got really sick, and my backup vendor got in a car accident. Things I could not predict. I just didn't have what I needed, and it was resurfacing. And resurfacing, you can hold up your other timelines. For anyone who doesn't know, student kind of has this movement where you do your punch, your paint, your resurface floor clean, or furniture clean, and then carpet clean. That's kind of the way the direction always kind of moves. But I couldn't do it. I was being held up, and resurface is a 3-day dry time.
right.
So I didn't have the support. And a woman who is a asset manager for our company, she called me, and she and I didn't know each other very well at the time. But she called me and she said, well, let me send you someone to help. And I was like, oh, I've never had someone show up for me in this regard. And so she showed up for me. And then my boss, who had only been my boss for a couple months at the time, came down and cut keys. We somehow threw away some of our keys. Don't know how that happened. So we had to go back and change locks last minute. And he, the morning of, cut all of the keys for our entire move-in. We had about 320 people moving in. He cut all the keys, himself and another member of our team. He hung balloon arches with me. We hand wrote notes to all of our residents. Something that was just would have been a horrible experience. My first one would have deterred me from the industry. They rallied for me. They showed up. They put me first. I became the customer that they were servicing. And we worked. And my team, they were incredible. They weren't complaining. They weren't complaining about the heat or the hours or the work. They just were enthusiastic and joyful. And they said, if you're going to be here, we're going to be here. They showed up for me. And I can't take credit for that move-in day. I can't take credit for that success. It was the people around me in my company who not only put our residents first, but put me first. Put my initiatives, my goals first. Yep. We come move-in day. It is one of the most successful move-in days, if not the most successful move-in day that site has ever had.
Yeah.
And we had a great time, and we had a pool party to end the move-in day with the incoming residents, and they loved it. And that started off a year of success where it's kind of got the ball rolling, where we have consistently filled at that site ever since. People have left glowing reviews. It's been a joy to live at. And it all started with my team being customer service oriented. And I will never forget that. I will never forget the impact that people can have on just an individual.
Yep.
They realized that I was the horn. I was the thing that was going to be speaking. I was the volume, and they lifted me up so that I could have a platform. And I really appreciated that. And it's just incredible.
That's amazing. And there you go. I mean, you just gave two examples, one of internal, one of external, and customer service and how it impacts everyone. I mean, because of the way your team rallied around you at the very beginning of your career in this business, you have been able to continue to demonstrate and model what they showed you, and it has benefited hundreds, thousands of other students and people, and it just spreads. It's fantastic. I mean, what a great organization. No wonder you're so passionate about them. I mean, that's just great. I love it.
They are fantastic.
This has been a terrific, couple of minutes together. Anything else you want to share about customer service or about, our teams? Anything else? I think you've done a terrific job just, summarizing what it's all about.
Yeah, I just want to tell our teams that it's okay to take a deep breath. It is okay to take a break. But keep your mind on what it really is, what it's about. It's about the people. It's about their homes. And when you choose to show up for others, everything else, I promise, will fall into place. Everything else is in the background of the person you're interacting with. People to people is just, it's the touch for life. And if you ever feel like you are not motivated, or you're feeling like you're losing that element of customer service, I challenge you to just remember and think back to a moment in your life where someone just made an impact on you, and try to model that behavior. I always say fake it till you make it, but a lot of times it's just remembering how someone treated you, and then you treated somebody else that well, and everything else will line up.
Yeah, yeah, good thoughts. I mean, again, I'll just add to that and just say I encourage everyone to make sure that you find leaders and an organization to serve that has similar values to where Ryan is today at Trinity, because that is going to make life so much better for you, for your career, and for your customers, to have that support, to have that backup, to know that you're so well supported and encouraged, and just pay it forward. Give it back to everyone around you, internally and externally. I think that's just great. Well, Ryan, thank you again so much for joining us today. I can't wait for another show where we can do something else and talk about something else fun. I've always really enjoyed our conversation. So, guys, I want to thank you again. This was Ryan McDaniel from Trinity Property Consultants. Thank you so much, Ryan.
Thank
Guys,
you.
we will see you on the next podcast. This is Eric Skeeter, Skeeter Advisors, from us to you. Have a great rest of the week, and we'll see you next time.